Good morning, everybody. So I'm really grateful to be here. I'm really happy to see a nice crowd here, and I'm really excited to talk to you guys about Indigenous representation in rock climbing. So I cannot see this, so I'm going to ask my partner to bring up my phone for me so I can make sure that I read all of this. Because I don't think we have this screen working right now, and that's cool. Nice, babe. And you know what? We're just going to make this work because, we're here and it's about community, right? And so I'm just going to pull up my presentation really fast so I can see it. Don't know if you guys can see it, but that's okay because we got important stuff to talk about this morning. All right, y'all. I know you wanted to come from the heart, but sometimes stuff is really important, and I want to make sure that it's said and done. So we're going to talk about Indigenous representation in climbing, but before we do that, I want to take a minute to do a land honoring. Some people call them land acknowledgements, but we're going to do a land honoring this morning. All around the world, there is an Indigenous presence that is integral to every space. Every space has been touched by Native hands. It has a name. It has a story. Natural formations are looked at as family members and hold strong cultural significance. Sacred sites and Indigenous spaces hold a massive amount of cultural and spiritual importance to Indigenous communities. Within our Indigenous communities, the land is our family and the water is our lifeline. Our ancestors built our communities around the spiritual power of places, woven into nature, respecting the natural balance. We built communities to sustain and honor the spiritual power within these spaces, living and continuing to live in concert with nature. Indigenous people are raised to understand the spirituality of nature. The spiritual power flows within our blood. We want others to learn our traditions, to respect our faith, and in turn, our being. I'd like to take a moment to honor these ancestral lands of the Cherokee, Muskogee, Yuchi, and Shawnee people. With deep respect, we recognize the enduring connection these nations and many others have to this territory here. May we reflect on our commitment to understanding, preserving, and respecting the rich culture of Native Indigenous communities who have shaped and continue to contribute to these lands here. So this is me. My name is Briana Mazzolini-Blanchard. I am Native Chamorro. And my clan is the Tugong clan. My people are from the island of Guam, native to the Americas here. I'm a community organizer, an Indigenous environmental conservation advocate, activist, educator, co-founder of the Indigenous Field Guide, a board member for the Red River Gorge Climbers Coalition, and the executive director of the Urban Native Collective in the greater Cincinnati area. Thanks, y'all. I've spent my entire career working as a leader in the nonprofit sector with specific focus on social service and the outdoor industry. I'm a mother, my kiddo's right over there, an artist, and the first rock climber to be inducted into the North American Indigenous Athletics Hall of Fame. Here's some photos from my induction ceremony in Minneapolis. It was really incredible to be honored in this space along with Olympic athletes. In the Indigenous space, there were Native athletes from all around the continent, folks that have won gold. Just the most humbling experience that I've ever had as an athlete. So I was incredibly honored to be inducted into that Hall of Fame. So here are the organizations that I work with. As I mentioned, the Red River Gorge Climbers Coalition, the Urban Native Collective on the far right, and then in the middle you've got the Indigenous Field Guide. So these are the orgs that I work with. The Red River Gorge Climbers Coalition, I have been a board member of the Red River Gorge Climbers Coalition since 2019. And in 2019, in 2020, I founded a program called Climb Late. And Climb Late exists to eliminate or attempt to eliminate the barriers into rock climbing for marginalized community members so that they can climb in the gym for free And I know that you Memphis folks are like, hell yeah, like that. Yeah, we like that. And in the Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and Kentucky area, over the last 4 years, we've worked to create programming at 4 different gyms to cut costs and make this program free. So we ran about 18 programs this year, 18 events this year in Lexington, Kentucky, Indianapolis, Indiana, and then at 2 different gyms in Cincinnati. And at those gyms, the cost of shoe rentals and anything that you might need to go into the gym is completely free. And we ran about 18 of them throughout the year. So that was a really big win for us, really amazing thing that we were able to do. Yeah. I mean, we went from 2 gyms in Cincinnati to 4 gyms in the tri-state area. And, coming up in the next year or so, I'd imagine that we're probably going to have 2 more gyms come on board, one in the Louisville, Kentucky area, which is also really close to the Red River Gorge, and possibly a 3rd location in Cincinnati. So really excited about that, really excited to have this program thriving. And, with this program, we've also been taking folks outside. So a lot of the folks that have been able to access our Climb Light program are going on trips with us outside to the Red River Gorge to climb, which is incredible. And as I mentioned, this program is free for Black, Indigenous, people of color, folks from the queer community, folks from the adaptive community, those that can't afford it, financially afford it. And we don't ask, we don't ask for your paycheck or anything like that. If you need to come for free, you can come for free. And those that are brand new to rock climbing. So we offer this program to a myriad of people. And it is just one example of how I've worked for the last 4 years to generate Indigenous representation and get Indigenous people, along with other marginalized people of color and other communities, into the rock climbing gym. And I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is one of our photos from one of our first events from this year. It's really awesome because we see about 90 to 100 people come to the gym on the nights that we offer in Lexington, Kentucky. And this is one of the photos from one of the nights that we had. I think it was our first night in February of this year. So really exciting. Those events, the gym's really kind, and they're like, let's cap it at 100 people. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so many people. But yeah, so we have about 80 to 100 people every time we host at our Lexington gym, and it's growing, and people are really, loving climbing, as we all do, and so it's really amazing to see. Okay, so the next organization that I work with, I helped co-found in 2021, and that is the Indigenous Field Guide. And the Indigenous Field Guide exists as a digital resource and a pledge, an online digital resource and a pledge, where outdoor recreators can they can check out our digital resource, they can commit to our pledge to understand how to access the outdoors through an Indigenous lens. So similarly to like Leave No Trace or other outdoor ethics that exist out there, the Indigenous Field Guide is the only of its kind that is able to offer y'all a lens, through an Indigenous lens. And so what we've done over the course of the last 2 years is really amplify this pledge. We've worked with Indigenous athletes around the globe, a lot of folks from Turtle Island and our First Nations relatives, and even some from outside of the Americas to really build this pledge. So we've worked with other Native athletes to really amplify our concerns within the outdoor space. So it's not just for climbers, even though me and our co-founder Sky, we are climbers, but we created this pledge, this digital resource, to be a resource for all outdoor recreators. And if y'all can see it, on the left was when Sky and I presented at last year's Access Fund Climbing Advocacy Conference. So we were on a panel as well. And then on the right was, that was in Bishop, California in March, where I presented a workshop that we typically present when we go out to different places, different festivals, at the Flash Foxy Festival in Bishop. So that's just two of the different ways in which we've shown up over the last few years to really educate. And Bishop was really awesome because not only did we go there, but we didn't climb. The roads were terrible, the land was terrible, and we were hearing from the Native community, please don't climb. The land needs care right now, and the last thing it needs is to be climbed on and taken advantage of right now. So we flew to Bishop, we taught a workshop, and we helped generate a fundraiser on the reservation, as well as go and do stewardship work with the local tribes. And so we didn't climb at all, and it was one of the most phenomenal experiences that I've ever had, getting to just work with the local Native community, which is always our biggest intention when we're going into different spaces that are not our homeland. So we always want to make sure that we're invited and we're welcome there before we come onto land that's not even our homeland, and talk about recreating in the outdoors through a Native lens. And then the last org that I work with, I joined early this year in 2023 as the executive director of the Urban Native Collective in the greater Cincinnati area. And something that we're doing with the Urban Native Collective, and I want to share with you, is what we're building there. And you know, I've been running these Climb Late programs for the last 4 years, and one thing that I have been incredibly passionate about is obviously Indigenous representation in the outdoors in climbing. And so we are building a program with some amazing partners to get Native and migrant youth and adults into the rock climbing gym. So we're looking and fundraising to be able to start this program with a climbing gym that literally sits right next door to our community space. So they're our next door neighbors, and we're really excited. They seem to be really excited about partnering with us to be able to offer free access to the gyms for our Native and migrant community that we work with in Cincinnati. So we're building it, and we're really excited to see it happen. Yeah. And this is a photo of some of the Native folks, some of the Native kids that we brought out to the climbing gym just a couple months ago. So they are so psyched, and they're like, when can we go back to the climbing gym? So it makes my heart sing to know that like my Native community is psyched on climbing, because it's just this intersection of all the places and spaces that I love, and that's why I love being here so much and feel so passionate about Memphis Rocks, is because it bridges all these intersections of my identity. And to see these Native kids just like climb up an auto belay and just like climb better than me sometimes, it just like makes my heart soar. So yeah, I'm just so excited to share that with you. So, you know, let's talk for a minute about why representation matters, and why does Indigenous representation matter in the climbing space. Indigenous people have lived on the land since time immemorial, and we were climbers before the sport of climbing was even invented. We hold a relationship with the land that is crucial to our future and the future of these lands. Indigenous people are the original stewards of these lands, and so for us to get on these lands and honor these lands, you know, I believe is a way in which Native people can connect with their traditions, connect to their people, connect to their ancestors, and be amazing stewards of this land. You know, I think the outdoor space likes to talk about sustainability a lot, and I'm not a huge fan of sustainability. I'm much more of a fan of regeneration, because regeneration is about building something new, better, without concern for like, okay, well, like what also can probably go wrong, but like to build it better. And that's why we're here, to build something better, to build something stronger. And Indigenous representation in the climbing space means connecting to our traditions and to our land. And you know, those are the people that I think this industry needs to be listening to, because they understand what care for the land looks like. Yeah, next slide. Indigenous people's connection to the land is essential to preserving our traditions and knowledge systems for future generations. As I mentioned, like we have deep connections to the land, and we have a deep generational understanding for how to care for the land. And so climbing and honoring these rocks, these grandfathers that are out here, is just one way in which we can like practice our traditions and feel connected to our ancestors. So many of us are urban natives off the reservation. I can't even enroll, and I know so many people are in similar situations. Maybe you've been disenrolled, maybe you can't enroll, maybe your people aren't federally recognized. And so like being on the land and touching the ground and touching the rocks and feeling a connection to our ancestors are sometimes the only things that we have. And so what a beautiful thing that we can do when we're climbing, as we're experiencing that, just to connect with the land. Yeah, and this is the last slide, and I feel like maybe the most important. You can't be what you can't see. I'm the only rock climber in the North American Indigenous Athletics Hall of Fame. Like, right, the only one. And so for me, I don't have anybody to look up to who's Native, who's a climber, who's crushing, who's like, man, they're doing it right, and I'm just so stoked on that. So like, I have to show up in this space for me, and I have to like figure this out on my own. And I know so many other people from the Black and brown community, from the queer community, from the adaptive community. Like Mo yesterday was talking about being the only one, and like how heavy that is, but how important it is to like show up in these spaces and be the only one, so that others don't have to be the only one anymore. So that Black folks and queer folks and Indigenous folks and all of the marginalized community members of the global majority can see people that look like them and not feel alone, and feel empowered, and feel as though there are other people in this space who are like-minded like me, who I can build community with, and we can build like future generations of climbers that love each other and care. And I mean, that's what it's about. And so you cannot be what you cannot see. And at the end of the day, that's why representation matters. Whether you're Indigenous, whether you're Black, whether you're brown, you know, why it matters for all of us to show up in this space for like our future generations. So, yeah. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, thanks.